Right, yeah.
Yeah, and typically it is. I just at the scan, they just kind of show
It is now 6 o'clock and time for us to call our meeting to order. I'd like to call your attention to a copy of the Open Meetings Act that is on the wall toward the back of the room. I will look for comments now or approval of the minutes for the March 7th meeting. All of you should have had an opportunity to review them. Moved by Weiss. Do we have a second?
A second.
Second by Tulane. We'll go around the table for approval or denial. Lehman?
Yes.
Weiss?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Kroll?
Yes.
Black?
Yes.
Young?
Yes.
Fosberg? Yes. And Tulane?
Yes.
Thank you. At this time, we are scheduled for an open public hearing to receive public comment on the redevelopment plan, Holdridge Workforce Housing, March 2019, designated as the redevelopment plan for all of Lot 1, Block 1, Becker's addition to the city of Holdridge, Phelps County, Nebraska. So we will receive comments, if you have any.
All right, gentlemen, ladies. I skipped that wrong, I apologize. You got the latest and greatest drawing of our subdivision plat, and literally the ink has probably just dried. Between Kim's schedule here lately dealing with the disaster relief up north, and Brian's and my schedules here of late, we didn't get together and get everything final until this morning about 10 o'clock. So the drawing that you guys got in the mail, in your packet, there's a few subtle changes. Nothing major. Pearl Avenue, that's up there, is now Madison Avenue. And other than that, that's probably about the most major issue you've got there. Yes, what I gave you up there, you got a copy of the whole plat, all the signatures, certificates, etc. The second sheet is the blow up, so you can actually read it. So it gives you a better idea kind of what's going on. Probably our biggest concern was to meet all our setbacks, etc., for the various types of houses, our tax credit, market rates, and single-family houses. And if you look by the number of each lot number, you'll see a TC, an MR, or an SF1. That just stands for tax credit, market rate, single-family housing. And that just gives you an idea when Cliff is talking about different types of housing, of the project, etc. You have an idea what we're talking about, where we're going. But the addition itself, we've got all our setbacks to work, so we meet all the city codes. Our easements, it was a little tougher to get our easements to work in here. We're going to set our electrical in the street between the sidewalk and the curb, and then in various points we're going to run our meter boxes to the back line so they're not an eyesore. So on each lot line, basically, I've got a 5-foot easement each side of there, so 10-foot total. So the city can basically walk back and change a burned out socket, etc. That type of thing. So our drawing here is a little confusing just because we got a lot of line work going on. But this gives the city good access to get back and do their job, what they need to, etc. The homeowner can still put a fence down that line. We talked about that. We have to make sure that they don't put posts on top of the conduit for the electrical. So nothing really too exciting there. We do have some 16-foot easements on the back lines there, so we still got room for telephone, gas if need be, and that type of stuff. So, yeah, one of the big changes that we made here probably about 3 weeks ago, we have 2 entrances into this subdivision, one off 11th. As you can see, Valley Street goes north-south. We exit on 11th Avenue about 220 feet east of East Street. And then we also, 10th Avenue on the south ties into East Street. So we do have 2 entrances into the addition. If you look on the center block, which is block 3, and go to the far east side, I've got a 30-foot alley on that far east side along there, and that's simply so trash trucks can make the loop. When this thing is all built out, and we got concrete streets on Madison and Avenue and 10th, they can make that loop and they don't have to turn around. Snow plow issue is still going to be an issue. They're just going to have to push straight to the east, but there's not a lot we can do with that right now. We just don't simply have the room to do a whole lot more. Kim, I don't know if I'm missing anything right now.
I believe so.
So with that, I'm going to open it up to questions and concerns you guys got. Yes, sir.
Did you, on the fence thing, did you offset the utilities so the fence could be set right between the property?
That's something that we talked about this morning, and yeah, when they go to put those in there, we can offset them to one side to the other. You know, that's just one,
Okay.
they've got 10 feet to play with, 5
Yes.
foot on each side of there, so whether he bores it or trenches it in, he can aim that thing and get it, so we're not on the line, you know, so they have room.
So you thought that through then?
Yep.
Very
Yep.
good.
One of us needs to talk about the phasing and why we're doing that.
Oh.
What our budget is, you want
I can start and kind of go from there. Right now, our phasing, we're basically gonna do, work on blocks 2, the north side of block 3, and then on the south side of block 3, we're going to include lot 6 in phase 1. And then we drop south into between lots 3 and 4 on block 4, and then we go back to East Street. Infrastructure-wise, we're gonna put water and sewer over the entire addition. And then paving, we're still working on our paving, how we can make the best use of what we have. And we're not gonna be able to pave the whole entire subdivision. 10th Avenue, that chunk to the east that we cannot, that we're not gonna pave, or in phase 1, won't be paved at this time. But it will be in the future as they build out those lots. So just financially, what we have with our grant work, et cetera, for those, this is about all we can do. You know, we're trying to stretch that as far as we can.
So will 10th be gravelled then and used still as an access point in phase 1?
10th going into east will be paved. From East Street to Valley Street we'll pave. Going north on Valley Street will be paved. Going east on Madison will be paved. And that one will be paved all the way to the end. Valley Street, we're still working on going north to 11th. We're trying to figure out how we can stretch our paving as much as we can.
It might be helpful if I talked a little bit about the 2 programs that are at work here and why we've got the constraints that we've got. We've been working on doing 2 different programs. One is a low-income housing tax credit project, which is funded through Nebraska Investment Finance Authority. They allocate credits, both federal and state credits at this time, that are sold to investors who will come in, buy the credits, and will own the housing for a period of 15 years. It's very similar to the projects that you've seen over around the Housing Authority to the north of this. At the same time, we applied for money under the Rural Workforce Housing program that was done last year, which was a one-time program. It was actually started by Matt Williams from Gothenburg, was the senator that introduced it. And what they did was they made money available for people, for communities that would bring a local match and then do some, do workforce housing. PCDC started it with $250,000 of their funds. which Nebraska Investment Finance matched with another $250,000, which gave us $500,000, and the state put $319,000 in. So we have $819,000 in that fund. And what we're trying to do is to build this out within those budgets. And that's been the pressure point. That's the problem that's created the grief, because the way we were planning on doing it was we're going to TIF the project. We're going to use the $819,000 that will buy those TIF bonds, and then those bonds get paid back into this local fund, which will revolve to do housing and Holdridge hopefully forever. But those two things created some constraints. And I want to thank Olson for working as hard as they have on this, because Doug's put in a lot of time trying to sort out what to do with it. Originally, we were trying to do something by bending 11th Street down, but 11th was the thoroughfare, so they didn't want to do that, so we left it untouched. So we ended up coming down to 10th Street. The other problem that's there is East Street, because East Street's a problem and it really kind of needs to be paved. There's not enough money in this to pave East Street. And it probably doesn't make sense to do the TIF financing out there on East, because it's 2 blocks long. And if you TIF it, you only get the first block, and the second block is still left out there. So I think the logical thing, and what I thought the city was looking to do, is to do a gap paving assessment there, so that they will go in and pave those 2 blocks using gap paving. I think that's the right thing to do. I think it makes a lot of sense, but you know, we're over budget. We're blowing our budget as we do these things. We're probably going to frankly have to go back to the Investment Finance Authority and ask for more credits, because we've had the delay and the other problems. So, you know, a caveat, we got to go ask them if they're going to allow us to proceed, and they're probably going to throw more money in to do it. But we've been trying to find some ways to stretch it out and do it a little bit to get farther. The real tragedy of the thing is that we can't pave 10th Street, because if you could get all of 10th Street paved and then you have a loop, you solve a lot of problems. Without creating the loop, you have an issue where garbage trucks go in, you gotta have a hammerhead or some way for them to turn around and get back out. If we could get both of them paved and loop it, we would be fine, but there's just no money in the budget to do the rest of that. So Doug's worked pretty hard to try and figure out what makes the most sense to do now and what needs to be put off for a later day. But that's why we've had the constraints. That's why we're trying to work out some compromise on that. I think we really need some help and guidance from you as to what you think makes the most sense to do with that. I think we've had a couple of ideas that I don't know what works the best. Doug, you want to go into some of the narrowing paving and those sorts of things, or?
Right, yeah, right now, our paving, the city code is 36 feet. And in most instances, that's great, because you can park on both sides and still get down the middle with relatively ease. One thing, and I haven't had a chance to discuss with Kim yet, he'll probably throw things at me. We might ask if we can maybe narrow that down to maybe 30 feet. By doing that, that might be able to stretch us so we can get 10th Avenue all the way paved. You know, so there's some thoughts here, if it'll work, if it won't work, what will be best for the community, for this area, and so we can stretch our dollars as best we can. That's the elephant in the room right now.
Can you review the phasing to me again, what first phase, what you plan on doing?
Okay. Okay, all of Block 2, which is that north block, north of Madison. The north half of Block 3, which is lots 1 through 5. On the south portion of Block 3, Lot 6 is in Phase 1. And then we drop south onto Block 4, and we go between Lots 3 and 4. So everything west of that line, west and north, is phase one. Phase two is everything kind of south and east. Hopefully that's not clear as mud.
And just to be clear, again, 10th Avenue is only gonna be paved from East Street to Valley Street. From Valley Street east is gonna be,
Block will be paved.
Now, is that intersection at 10th and East Street, is that paved?
We're gonna get into that a little bit, but yeah, if we have to, we can get into that East Street a little bit. Right now, I think we've got it set up so we're just doing a return. 10th Street does not, the way we've got it on here, we tried to bend 10th Street down originally, so we tied in straight with 10th Street going west. But we lost 2 lots. Lots 1 and 2 were non-existent. And we're already losing lots right now, so we're trying to keep our lot count up, so it just makes it financially better.
There was a notch in there someplace. It was
Right.
just a question whether it was at East Street or at Valley Street.
Right.
But it ended up notching in one place or the other.
So, if the gap pave on east, it'll take care of itself.
When we look at the cost of the project, and this shows you the problems that we face in the state with workforce housing, assuming they go ahead and gap pave East Street, we're talking about having infrastructure costs here of about $41,000 a lot. And Messer Development Company builds affordable and workforce housing. And it's really, really difficult to hit workforce housing that your workforce can afford when you got $40,000 tied up in the lot. I showed at the CRA meeting what we were building in Wayne. We built tax credits on one side, and we were building duplex units, townhomes on the other side, 1,500 square foot homes with a 2-car garage, either a 2 or 3 bedroom. And we were selling those in Wayne for $150,000. But you put them on a $40,000 lot, you got a problem. And that's what we're trying to get past. We're trying to hit that market, and it's just difficult. It's just difficult because the infrastructure costs are hard, and it's hard even to get enough money there to pay off the TIF bonds. The city of Holdridge only has $250,000 of their, I shouldn't say the city, the community. It all came from PCDC. There's no city money involved in this at all. But PCDC put $250,000, and the rest of it has all come from the federal or state. But we'd like to recapture as much as we can, because then it goes into that revolving loan fund, and you have a fund that will continue to build housing in Holdridge. And if we don't get it built out fast enough, then that fund just isn't as big, and it's a problem. But if you're putting $40,000 in the lots and you don't get them built out, and you're paying the interest on that, pretty soon there's nothing left. So we have to have a program that hits a price point that we can build them out and sell them and get it done, and move this whole thing and get it all built out in 3 or 4 years. Then we can go on and finish the rest of it. But if you don't get them sold out, then the whole program stalls.
So what do you think the price per lot will be if it's not 41,000? If we don't pave that East Street?
If we didn't pave east, I think you were saying what, about 39, is that right?
Right, yeah.
For, there are 27 lots altogether, and was that the 20? Yeah, that would be the 20. The 20 lots that are in phase 1 without paving East Street would be about 39,000.
When you talk paving, is it concrete or is it asphalt? What is paving?
Yes, it is concrete, yes. We bid everything out in concrete. Right now, with oil prices the way they are, there's not much price difference between concrete and asphalt. And concrete's just a lot better product for longevity, obviously, so.
The idea, of course, is to buy down the lots and get them down to a price that makes sense. We've agreed to come in and build 2 townhomes. If we get those sold, we'll turn around and build some more. But if you can buy these lot prices down, and the original thought was we were gonna be able to buy them down to zero, then you have lots that you can take to your local builders and basically give them a free lot that was paid for with federal and state money, and they can build a house and make some money and generate some tax revenue. I just wanna, we gotta get it bought down to the point that that makes sense for everybody. We've agreed to build on part of the lots, but, and we'll just keep doing what we have to do there, but we also wanna make it available to your local builders, because you've got some local builders that could go in with a free lot and build something and make sense out of it and make some money and have more housing here. But we're just trying really to pull the whole thing together. And I don't know if it makes sense to squeeze the roads in 6 feet. The only place we do the 37-foot wide streets was in Grand Island, and I think they've changed now. Every place else we do 32-foot wide streets. If we had that extra concrete, I guess I haven't even done the math, would it give us enough to finish out 10?
It would give us quite a bit. I don't know if we'd be able to get it all done, but it'd be darn close. I haven't had time to really put that math together, really figure that out, but it would make a difference. But there again, I haven't ran this by Kim, this is strictly, we're looking for some guidance, thoughts, comments.
I'd probably make a comment and say I would not be in favor of a narrower street. Just the way families are, just the way things are, it's just cars end up in the street anyways. You have a very, very narrow thoroughfare at that point, so I think it'd be better
I would agree.
long-term, just keep the street wide, and
Especially in a year like
nobody
this.
complains about having extra space on the street. And this is probably forward-looking, but hypothetically, how do you finish out 10th Avenue then in the future to get it paved?
That's gonna,
Would it stay unpaved for 20 years, or until you get an
as
assessment
they
to go through?
build that out, that might have to be an assessment
Okay.
on those lots. You hate to say it that way, but that's about the only way it's gonna get, unless we have another project that can work that in, with these lots and something else.
You could go back and do another TIF project and buy down that cost if you wanted to. But the problem is, you've got $800,000 of TIF out there now. And if you build that out in 2 years, it would make sense to do the whole thing right now. Ideally, that's what you would do, is do all of it right now. But if you add the other 300 and some thousand to it, and you got $1 million out there that is costing you money all the time, you've got to get it built out in a hurry. And we saw a lot of communities that got into trouble in the 2008 recession because they had lots out there, they didn't get them moved in a hurry, and suddenly the TIF didn't work the way it was supposed to because the interest was growing all the time and the tax increment wasn't showing up. So, so that's the problem. You just can't afford to put, I think it was actually 1.1 or $1.2 million into it, because we just don't think it'll build out fast enough.
If there's plans to build east of here in the future, is there?
That's private property out there, and we have no idea.
I'm just saying, if you build a narrow street and you build out there in the future, it might be a problem.
That's the reason, one of the things that's different about this is, they wanted to leave 11th Avenue straight, and that makes sense, because that's your thoroughfare, and you don't want to have these 10 units backing up onto 11th Street. But that becomes your entrance to whatever's going to happen to the east. So I would think that you would look to loop Madison and 10th Avenue out here and have 11th run on out as your thoroughfare, and not have 11 and Madison half a block apart. So, which is one of the reasons I'm not, I under that that's a little bit different street.
This tractor ground is too big for, you know, less and not big enough for more. You know, it's just right in between. There's only so much we can do with it.
If I can be blunt, and I hope I'm not stepping on anybody's toes, but one of the problems you have is in block one, lots 1, 2, and 3 they're really nice looking lots on paper, they're really valuable lots on paper, but across the street, the housing is not good. So you're gonna have a hard time getting someone to buy a house and look at what's across the street. So you may end up with rental properties there, and that's not what master development company is looking to do. Maybe there are some other companies who want to do that, but that's one of the issues that's there too. It's too bad that we can't get a hold of property to the south of this, because then you could do your planning very, very differently. But it's not within our power to do that, so.
Any other questions or comments?
Back to the streets. If Valley and Madison were the 60-foot, and 10th and 11th would be the 36, does that move the thing any further forward, Doug, or not? Or you were thinking 60 on 10th
No.
also?
60 foot's the street right away.
Okay.
That's what that has to be.
Okay.
We're talking about the
The width of the concrete,
pavement,
I
right.
understand that.
So, yeah, right now, we've got everything set up at 36 feet.
So you're at 36 now.
Right.
But what you were proposing with the narrower streets was Madison and
And 10th.
Valley, or Madison and
10.
10th.
Yeah, and ideally, the more, obviously, if we could narrow everything, then that gives us more to finish out 10th. You know, I understand the desire to have nice wider streets. I detest narrow streets myself. But we're just trying to make the best, you know, bang out of our buck, but we can make it work. The scary part is we don't finish out 10th, and that's gonna sit there for 10, 15 years before we have another TIF project that we can finish it out.
Then you're planning, you're actually banking on these market rate homes to help refund or put money back into the pool, so to
Exactly.
speak.
Right.
So that, A, we need the housing, B, we need the market rate to make it work. And if we could work with the narrower streets to make this thing flow, I think we need to, quite frankly, need to consider that. I understand 36 feet and all that, but I hate to give up this project over 6 feet of concrete.
I have a huge concern about leaving a little bit of gravel there too, because it's
Yeah,
unfinished and makes those
because
lots
we have
very
to have these
I
market rate homes
Yeah.
to make it work.
Yeah.
I frankly wouldn't put those 7 lots in, because if you put those 7 lots in, I mean, it would show you this is what we want to do, but if you put those 7 lots in and put a gravel street in front of them, then you pay hell trying to get them paved later. And you shouldn't let anybody build on them without paving them. I mean, I hate to say that because it costs money, but that's the reality of it. And I understand what you're talking about. If you actually put that in as a street, it's a problem. If we didn't put in the street from Valley north to Madison, so we took that 126 foot of paving and put it down on 10th Street, you're down to 250 feet of street left. And I think that loop is important because then you're your garbage trucks have a way out. Your snow plows, your fire trucks all have a way out.
We're talking about that little chunk going north of Madison, of Madison to 11th. That's a piece up there,
This,
yeah,
this chunk right here,
yeah,
eliminate that, put it down here.
yeah.
Then you're only 250 feet short of getting 10th finished.
Is that with the 36-foot streets or with the 30-foot?
Yes.
Right, yeah, that'd be that 36. Yeah,
So would 11th be paved over to Valley Street then?
right now, no.
Okay.
If you look up there on 11th, you'll notice that ditch in there. We do have it figured in right now to throw in a little bit of storm sewer pipe in that ditch and fill that in so we can get from Valley Street over to 11th. Whether we pave over top of that or not, I guess that's one of those questions. So right now, you physically can't drive it because of that ditch.
So you would, in block 2, you would slide this whole housing,
No,
No.
we would leave Valley Street there, so there still would be technically an access.
You just
Future-wise, we could do that,
it'd be just grass.
right. Or we could gravel that too, but then again,
But if there's not a road to go to,
right,
you know.
not a
grass would-
physical road, yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
In a nutshell though, if you do narrow the street up, it all gets paved and it solves the problem.
I think we can. I think we can get a lot of it paved. It'll still be tight. We'll be stretching, but I think we can,
but the combination of this little chunk and a narrower street would get 10th
I'm pretty sure it would,
to where you could get all these market rate
Yeah.
lots
Yeah.
on the market.
yeah.
If you narrow the street, are you only gonna allow parking on one side or the other? You still gonna allow parking on both sides? Would that make it too narrow for garbage trucks and fire trucks to get through? Be a
I
concern I
think-
would have.
You could, a 30-foot street would still get you plenty of room, single file. You wouldn't be able to drive side by side.
About when people park campers and boats on both sides of the
That's a
street.
concern,
Yeah.
as it is with all our streets that we have right now.
Right.
What is the standard, their common street width in Holdridge?
I was thinking about that, I should have pulled this tape on, in front of ours. I
We
think, I
certainly
believe
got
everything is at 36 right now.
Not down,
36.
not in the old section, is it?
No,
No, I was gonna say, there's some narrow,
yeah,
From
yeah,
what?
on the newer end, yeah.
well,
What's the
even over
number?
by me where they have cars parked on each side, I can't think of the street, you can't
It's
go
single
side by
file.
side, that's
Right.
single file
Yeah,
now, and they're pulling up on the sidewalk.
yeah.
Didn't you say in Grand Island you did them in 32 feet? Or where was that, or Wayne?
Grand Island is the only town where we've done the 37-foot wide streets.
So Wayne, you
Every place
said
else
you did some at
we did
32?
32. Every place else, I think we do 32 except
Would
Grand
you do it
Island.
if you did 32?
It'd be tight. There again, I haven't pushed the numbers on that. We were just literally talking about this afternoon.
Well, I don't know that I'm really in favor of narrower streets either, but I don't think this is really gonna work unless we do pave 10th. I just see a lot of difficulty with that, and especially if we're dealing with some unpaved and some paved, how are you gonna keep those streets clean? And, you know, it's just gonna be
Well,
a nightmare, I think.
And the
so.
money side of it has to work.
Right.
You know,
and-
these
and
market,
that's- Yep.
these market, rate houses have to be sold, or those lots have to be sold and for this whole thing to work.
So I think, even though we may not like it as well, I think we really have to consider the narrower streets to make this work, so we can get more concrete length in there to make it work to the dollar and make it work to the
Mhm.
sellability of the lots.
Right.
And all of these are 2-car garage units?
The 10 units that you have that are marked tax credit, those will be single-car garages pushed together so it looks like a two-car garage in the middle of the house. The other townhomes, the rest of it is however we build it out and sell it. Messner is planning on building townhomes with two-car garages, so that they're basically, they're single-family attached. They're two houses that are attached. That saves us money because you don't have a 10-foot setback in between the two, which means you save 20 feet of paving every time you attach the two units. That has allowed us to hit a price point that people like. And we've just been able to roll that price back, and I think that's important. There's a problem all across the state right now that the cost of construction has outpaced the wage. And the whole state is trying desperately to figure out ways to do workforce housing. I don't know if any of you have followed the Blueprint Nebraska stuff, but the Blueprint Nebraska program is, I think, originally started by Hank Bounds at the university, who went to the governor, and the governor handed it off to private industry, and they pulled together a steering committee of high-powered people across the state. And the steering committee decided to do 16 industry councils to talk about workforce development, transportation, agriculture, et cetera, et cetera. One of those industry councils is housing, and my wife Kathy was asked to chair that, so she's been putting a lot of time in chairing that industry council. And everything that happens there with the workforce development and everything else all rolls back to, can we build housing at an appropriate price? We can't create jobs if we don't have places for them to live, and we can't get places for them to live if we can't build a house that the wage supports. And it's not something that's a problem in Holdridge. It's a problem that really exists all across the country. We certainly see it all across Nebraska and Kansas. The farther west you go, the more difficult it is. We can actually build housing today cheaper in Omaha than we can in Holdridge. And that's unfortunate, but that's the reality of it. So, you know, those are the pressure points. That's kind of what's pushing us to it. And I wish I could tell you that we could build the first phase with a 36-foot wide street, and in 2 years we'd be building the second one. But I just don't think it'll move that fast. You know, and I'm afraid it'll be 10 years from now before somebody goes back to looking at it, and then you've created a long-term problem instead of a short-term problem.
The other nice thing is if we can stretch that and get 10th paved, that opens up about, what, 7 lots where our local guys can, you know, if they have the right customer, they might be able to, you know, start doing some things in there. You know, so there's a possibility in there. It gives us some options there. But
As a commission, is there other key issues that we should be looking at on this plan, as far as, we know how it fits into our comprehensive plan, and we're, you know, on that aspect of it, we're talking streets here, are there other things that we should be keying in, or that we need to approve or disapprove?
One of the things that you have to do tonight, and it's kind of separate and distinct, but we've started this TIF process. And the way the TIF process works, the CRA makes recommendation to advance the thing to the city, but it has to go to planning and zoning. You have to hold a public hearing, let the public have an opportunity to speak about the project, and then you are supposed to report to the city council either that it meets your overall plan for the community, your comprehensive plan. In other words, you're looking for housing in this area, you're not looking for industry or something else. You can approve it, send that recommendation up to city council. You can take the other route and disapprove it, or you can do nothing at all. But you were required by law to hold the hearing, and the logical thing is just to give the city council your advice. That issue is fairly narrow, and we just need you to do whatever you want to do there. It's ultimately a recommendation to the city council ultimately makes a decision. Doug's been giving you the tougher stuff, you know, how do you feel about this stuff? Do we narrow the streets? Do we put this street in? Do we leave this street out? What do we do? Those, in my opinion, are the hard questions. But maybe we should let other people in the room speak too, because it's that's part of the public hearing process. But I thought we needed to lead and kind of show you what we've been working on.
Thank you.
Anything else, you guys? We're still here, so.
Thank you for your time.
All right.
We will take comments from the audience. If you would like to come up, please address who you are. And we would ask that you would try and limit it to a couple minutes if you can, because we could eat up a lot of time if everybody has something to speak and wants to go on and on and on. So if you do have something to share, please come up and offer your comments. We'd love to hear them, and just tell us, just announce your name, please, and try and hold it to a couple minutes if you can.
Brad, I just have a question for Doug, real quick. Are you talking about closing the north end of Valley off,
No, no. We'll still have the platted street there.
coming off 11?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, no, that's gonna stay platted, period. Whether we pave it, going north of Madison, that's part of the question.
Okay, we'll still have two entrances in
Right.
to the subdivision.
Yes.
That was my main concern.
Yep. Yeah, that isn't okay.
Thank you, Randy.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
I'm Sharon Hopefully with the South Central Economic Development District, and I just want you to remember that you guys paid for a housing study. PCDC really worked with that with the team across your community, and you have a need for these houses. You have a huge need. And I'm curious, Kim, how wide is Valerie Avenue where I live? You know?
Street right away is 60 foot with 36-foot wide concrete.
On the old part where I live is?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. I know that, I'm not sure of the dimensions, but I know there's a new development east on 39th, south side of 39th in Kearney, where they shrunk the lots, they shrunk the streets, they shrunk so that just for this purpose. There's a lot of communities looking at it. I would like to see Holdridge be progressive and really take a look at what we can do to make a project like this work. Our employers are screaming for employees, and we don't have a place to put them, and we're looking at all kinds of other creative things in town. And as a development district, we're putting a house at 11th and Logan, doing infill. I think that's less appealing to some of the contractors, and we're not here to compete, but to do work where others might not. And so I would just encourage you to, we can get creative if we need to. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Hello, I'm Mark Carlson with Lost Way Brewery. I've been at a couple other places too. Last time I sat in front of a group like this was at the Senate building, and they also had a gargantuan task in front of them as far as balancing the budget and relief, property tax relief. So I want to say thank you for what you guys are doing. This is a huge task. Holdridge needs housing. From the brewery standpoint, we've been open for 16 months now. We have 3 employees. At this point, we're hiring people that have other jobs. But it'd be great if one day we're hiring people and bring people in this community. That's why we moved to Holdridge, is to help grow Holdridge. But I've also worked at BD, and I've worked at Almond. And I can tell you from my time there that it is very difficult to get people to work in those positions. Those 2 plants and specifically bring a lot of money in this community. And I think probably on average about 75% of the people that work for me were coming in from out of town. if we can get those people living here and give them an opportunity to live here, that's gonna just reap benefits across the community. So I know it's difficult, I know there's a lot of hard choices in front of you, what you can do, but I definitely appreciate what you're doing, and I hope we can get this done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, last word I knew, our electric superintendent had concern on where he's gonna put the transformers. Has that ever been looked at? We're concerned about, you know, the utilities, getting everything in there. The size of the streets. Housing is important. That's a big deal in Holdridge, Nebraska. This could help us. Has anybody looked at? I haven't heard that addressed. The last word I knew, Brian Brinkman was concerned. We're gonna have to put these transformers in on the front of the properties. Has that been looked at by the planning commission or utilities?
We addressed that this morning with Doug.
They'll be on curbside?
They'll be on curbside, kind of what, the way they're going down 7th Avenue is now. The electric department is putting underground from 4th to 11th, from approximately Lincoln Street to East Avenue. And if you drive down 7th Avenue, there are a few transformers at the end of the alley, so it'd be something particular to that.
Right, right. And the idea was, the transformers are low sitting, you know, they're gonna disappear after a while from, you know, everybody real seeing them. The meter poles, they're larger, they're more visible. Those are the ones that we're gonna sit on the backside, you know, so, Brian and I, we talked at really great length on how to set our easements up on the back lot line, so if 10 years down the road, they gotta go down and change out a transformer, they can actually drive down that easement. Everybody puts guards, everybody parks stuff back there, everybody builds fences back there. In a matter of 5 years, you won't be able to walk down that back line. I mean, that's just the way it is. So this is our best way to get around that. We still have good access. The city can get everything they can from the street side. If they have to go to the back line, they have a 5-foot on each side of the line, so they can walk back there and change out a burned out socket, etc. So we still have good access. So yeah, we spent quite a bit of time looking at that.
These aren't final plats by any means. Where does that 8-inch gas line come through on east side of East Street?
Pretty much right down the middle of East Street. After it was, we were looking at that, I actually went and talked to the gas company that afternoon, and they were nice enough and went out and located it. I got pictures if you wanted to look at it, but, and yeah, it's all but real close to being the center. It's about 4 foot off where that sewer line is. That goes up and down East Avenue. So.
Thank you.
My heart stopped when that came up.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for finding that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to echo the comments by Mark Kraus. I want to thank you guys, all of you, for the time and effort and the hard choices that you have to make sometimes. I'd like to maybe address something looking down the road a little bit further, assuming that this project's going to move forward. We're going to be able to resolve all of the development issues associated with it. Other people have said how important it is for us to build new houses. In every new house, a new family is going to also grow, and that's going to be the future and the health of our community. PCDC is not only supporting the development of this project, but we're also supporting methods to recruit people to live in those homes. As Mark said, a good number of people at BD, also at Almond, and in other places in our community, people are commuting into those jobs, but they take their paychecks someplace else. So we've offered down payment assistance grants through employers to help encourage people to live here as opposed to just commuting to a job here. We're going to continue to do that. BD renewed their commitment this year for another 10 down payment assistance grants to employees that are commuting. They did 10 last year. Since we introduced that program, we've relocated over 60 people to the community using that program. But we need more choices for them to come into our community, and this is going to be, I think, a very attractive choice at price points that are attractive to those people that are employed here already. So although there are certainly development challenges, I know that we can work through them if we all recognize that the problems are solvable. And again, I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing and your willingness to look at those solutions or find those solutions. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Brad, I have one quick question.
Yes, Randy.
Has there been any thought given into whether or not there should be any covenants in this subdivision as far as accessory buildings? And
We've had some thought about it, but we haven't centered around it. But our original thought was that we would build out a townhome and put covenants around those and actually put those in a homeowners association so that they always were mowed and looked good and stayed clean. Part of the problem is, part of what we wanted to do was make lots available to the local builders so that they were having these steeply discounted lots available to them. So then we were kind of trying to figure out how do we start, well, we gotta do something with those covenants or agreeing how we're gonna do it, but if we're gonna sell lots to local builders, they ought to participate in how we put those covenants together. Because I don't think we wanna put covenants to require them to build homes that are too big. If we sell the lots, we're gonna sell them on the condition that something has to be built on them in a year and a half. And by sell, I mean recover our costs. But I think there needs to be something out there.
I could do just protect the homeowners.
Yeah, yeah.
In the subdivision so it doesn't
We-
get out of hand.
We generally put covenants in, but we tend not to be highly restrictive. We tend to say it has to be a house of 1,300 square feet with a two-car garage. And we're not, we generally don't push it too hard. The outbuildings are kind of a local question, and I think some communities are used to having outbuildings. Some communities really don't want them out there, so. But I do think something needs to be done.
When you're on a smaller lot, it's
Yes.
pretty hard to stand sometimes, doesn't look that good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If no other comments, then I will close the public hearing. And we'll move on to consideration of the adoption of the resolution. At this time, we will consider adopting the Planning Commission Resolution 2019-01, approving CRA redevelopment plan number 27 for the redevelopment plan Holdridge Workforce Housing, March 2019, designated as the redevelopment plan for all of Lot 1, Block 1, Becker's addition to the City of Holdridge, Phelps County, Nebraska, and recommending said plan to the City of Holdridge Community Redevelopment Authority and the mayor and the council of the City of Holdridge.
I would recommend we move forward on that with the addendum of the paving option that we had talked about, 30 or 32 feet. I think we need to express our wish that 10th Avenue being paved all the way through, it needs to be a high priority if this project is to be successful for Holdridge. That would be my wish.
Okay, Donna's made the motion with the note attached to it that our desire is to see 10th paved out as far as it can be, and if it needs to be, pavement needs to be narrowed to 30 to 32 foot. That would be our recommendation. That being the said motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Lehman. Delene?
Yes.
Vosper?
No.
Young?
Yes.
Black?
Yes.
Kroll?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Weiss?
Yes.
Lehman?
Yes.
Okay. The adoption has passed. And at this point, we'll consider approval of the preliminary replat of Lot 1, Block 1, Becker's addition to the city of Holdridge, Phelps County, Nebraska, into Crew subdivision.
I would make that motion with the aforementioned addendum or notes on the paving and 10th Avenue.
Okay? Motion by Black with that same note attached to it. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Anderson. Lehman?
Yes.
Weiss?
Yeah.
Anderson?
Yes.
Kroll?
Yes.
Black?
Yes.
Young?
Yes.
Osborne?
No.
And
Yes.
Delene? Okay, thank you. At this time, we will open this up to any open discussion there may be. Anything from over there?
I've been here long enough today.
Okay, hearing nothing on open discussion, I will look for a motion to adjourn. By Weiss? Second?
Second.
By Delene. Okay, we'll start with you.
Yes.
Osborne? Young?
Yes.
Black?
Yes.
Kroll?
Yes.
Anderson? Weiss? Lehman? Okay. We are adjourned. Thank you all for your time.
It's like a record.
Like an hour.
Man.
Yeah.